In the quiet, after the weekday rush, there's a rhythm to the simple things. In the dance of daily life is the quiet rituals of that I cherish most. The joy is in the journey, the sizzle of onions, the warmth of fresh laundry, the brush of broom across the floor. These tasks, often seem as mundane, are the very essence of my week's delight. Cooking for me is not just about the end result, it's about loving each step along the way. It's in the way my hands move with purpose, the flavors blend and come alive, the way simple ingredients transform into a meal that feeds more than just hunger. Join me this week as we embrace the task that grounds us, that brings us back to ourselves and to the simple joy of making a house a home. Hello everyone. Spend a couple of days with me in my kitchen. We're gonna be making a lot of good food. I just find that after a very busy week and knowing you're gonna have a busy week ahead, I find that it's just easy to have a couple of meals already prepared, ready to go, or even if it's just a pie crust, so I can just make an easy pie or a quiche, just whip it up together quickly, so it's just there to grab it. So I'm making some Hungarian foods, as I do. I am from Hungary after all. But I just wanted to talk to you about where I live, what I do. So I do work full time, but I love cooking, and my end goal is to save up enough money that I can buy a farm that we can just live off the grid, or at least as much as possible. Right now I live in a terrace house and with a tiny little garden where I'm still planting some stuff. It's very overcrowded. My partner calls it the jungle. I have strawberries in hanging planters because of slugs. We have zucchini. I've just planted some radishes, and we have tomatoes, beetroots. I planted one potato. Where I work, I can get potatoes for pretty cheap, and they're grown in the UK, so I do not really have to get the potatoes, but I figured I just wanted to try just one. So I planted one potato, Mozart potato, a red potato variety. I'm just gonna talk you through what I'm doing here. So I'm making this soup. It's a Savoy cabbage soup. You just put the fat onions. I put a little flour on it, grated carrots, sliced Savoy cabbage. Top it up with chicken broth. I made the broth the week before this video, and then I mix sour cream with a little bit of the soup. Put it off the cooktop and mix it in so it doesn't have that, them spots, and it separates. And just before it finishes, like 5-10 minutes before, I just add in some sliced frankfurters. This is my daughter's favorite soup, well, one of them at least. She loves soups anyway. And here you can see me making a pie crust. It's a double the recipe. I love to make these for quiches that my partner loves. It's a very easy recipe also. It's basically just flour, butter that I grate in, sourdough starter. It can be active or discard, either way. And then if you need maybe a couple of spoonful of cold water, it has to be cold, and you have to make sure that you don't knead it for too long. As soon as it's combined, it's pretty much done. You just maybe I usually shape it into a rectangle or a circle, either way, and then just cling foil, go in the fridge. You can already see how the layers are flaky. Oh, it's awesome. But anyways, yeah, back to the garden. So, well, it's basically a concrete block, to be quite honest with you, but I do still grow some things for my family, but I just wish that I was already at the farm. So I'll just slice up some frankfurters that will just go in the soup, and you'll see me adding it in. I'll also mix up some sour cream. I buy this from a farm shop, not too far from us. So I mix the sour cream with a little bit of the soup, just so it's closer in temperature to each other. And then I'm gonna pull the soup to the side and add this on so it does not separate. You can see me just pulling it to the side, adding the mixture back on the stove. Making a sourdough. We're just mixing it up. Just flour, salt, starter. It's active and bubbly, and I just have a little thing of water, and then I just mix it up. Awesome. It's a very simple recipe. It does not even require a scale, although you can use a scale if you want to, but it doesn't have to be used. You can just use cups, or even sometimes eyeballing it works. And just cover it and go to the side. I'm going to make a chicken stew, a Hungarian chicken stew, with some Hungarian sort of like a gnocchi noodle type. It's like a pasta anyway, but it's homemade. It's awesome. We love it. My grandma used to make it when I was little. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you do, I would really appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe. This is my first one, so I just feel like it would help the channel tremendously to maybe take off and hopefully inspire people to follow their dreams, whatever it may be. So please subscribe. So you see me just cutting up the onions and popping into the pan. I'm gonna add some garlic to it, but in the meantime I would like to talk about the future of the channel. I'd love it to be about a little bit of everything. You see, I love cooking and I love DIY. I love building. I love to be busy, so I hope you guys will enjoy it and that I'll get to see you in future videos as well. Just popping the tomatoes, some paprika and chicken thighs and drumsticks in the pan, a little bit of salt, water and pepper. I'm just going to perform a couple of stretch and folds on this sourdough. Lately I'm not doing any stretch and folds and the bread still turns out fine. I'm just finding when I'm really busy, when I finish working and I get home, I just do not have the time to do all the stretch and folds, but it still turns out fine. It still turns out okay. So I just always feel like everybody, I was so hesitant to start sourdough because everybody said, oh, it's so difficult, you have to have your timings right. If you mess up your timings, it's gonna not turn out how you wanted. And I find that sourdough doesn't have to be difficult. I do not always use bubbly starter even. I just, maybe it needs a little more time to leaven then, but it doesn't have to be difficult. Here I'm mixing up that homemade pasta sort of thing, which is just some flour, eggs and water. Mix it up. You have to make sure you do not over mix it, because if you do, it's going to become like rubbery and it's really hard to push it through. It's sort of like a grater, like from the inside of a grater. You can buy this on Amazon or even eBay. And what you do is you get this soft dough, you put it on top of that and push it through, and it just cooks for a couple of minutes in some salted water, boiling water. It's really nice. You can even have this just with eggs. Sometimes just crack a couple of eggs on it and boucheronka. It's really nice. Just have to mix it a couple of times so they don't cook together in the water. And show you, you have to put it in cold water so it stops the cooking, because it can overcook. It's like fresh pasta, it can overcook real fast. So I usually leave it in the cold water while I make another batch into the boiling water, and then just get it sieved through. There you go, new water. Oh, really nice. If you can't tell, I do love food. I usually pop a little bit of oil on top of it just so they don't stick together, but yeah. Here I had to take out of the chicken from the pan because I messed up the timings, I guess. I was a bit nervous about filming, so I didn't cook the onions long enough, so they didn't really mush. So I just used the stick blender to mush it up and mix a little bit of sour cream and flour together, mix it into the sauce and just make the sauce more creamy. Oh, magnifique, really nice. We'll bring that sauce back to the boil and add the chickens back to it. It's chicken thighs. Oh, awesome. Although I do not eat the chicken of it, I'm working on it. I think I have a little bit of sensory issues, but I'm working on it. You can see me another series of stretch and folds on this sourdough bread. This video is gonna be over a couple of days. I think I've been home for 2 days from work, and I spent one day and then the next, like morning of the next day, making these foods. And these are bigger amounts, so we were eating it throughout the week. So it's not just for one meal. It's a couple of times we had leftovers and made do. There you go. I'm just making the tension in the dough. It turned out a little sticky, but it still works. It's still gonna turn out. You're gonna see it when I'm cutting it up. It's awesome. And in that pickle jar that you see there, I have pig's fat, I guess, lard from my auntie's farm that we visited last year. So we got some lard that we brought back with us. We went with the car, and we live in the UK, by the way. There you go. I just put the bread on baking paper, making my scoring, and I'm just gonna make a deeper score, like so the dough can rise. Putting it in my cast iron pan. I'm gonna pop it in the oven and take it out 7 minutes later. Score it along the deep score so you can expand a little bit more. So you can see me doing it now. I've also cooked up a little bit of onions, chorizo, garlic with salt for the quiche that I'm making, and this chicken that I cooked up the day before. so I can grill it and have it in the sandwiches, and putting the broth into jars to have it later. I always have some on hand, and here I'm making the quiche, some eggs, I add the onions, mixture and cream, pepper, salt, and the cheese, putting it to the side while I'm rolling out the pie crust that I'm gonna bake after for the quiche. Here's the bread. It turned out really nice. It did puff up, and it just was really tasty. I like to pre-cook my pie crust, so I just add the pie weights in, goes in the oven for 10 minutes on 200 degrees Celsius, and then it's ready to be filled up with the quiche filling and goes back in the oven for half an hour to 45 minutes, and here's the result. Turned out really tasty. I've started making this from pie crust. It's essentially cheese straws. Just roll it out real thin, brush it with eggs mixed with water, and add the cheese on top of it. I cut them out with this little wheel into strips and bake them on 220 for 10 to 20 minutes. Towards the end it tends to cook a bit faster. It's a family favorite. It's awesome with soup. You can have it instead of breadsticks. It's always the first thing to go. You just cannot stop eating it. And while assembling this sandwich with the grilled chicken, some tomatoes, homemade cheese, lettuce, and homemade mayo that I whipped up with a whole egg, some salt, vinegar, pepper, and mustard. I want to thank you for staying and watching the whole video. Lovely to have you here, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It would help me tremendously. I'm aiming to upload in the next couple of weeks. Thank you. Bye.